Okay, before I get any further with any of those nuts and bolts issues for speech and debate, I want to talk to you briefly about parent training. I've never trained parents before for this, so go figure. But it's really not that hard to do. Trust me. So I've been to many speech and debate tournaments, and that was great training for me. The fact is, you go to a speech tournament, for STOA anyway, and they have training for you, and the training takes 10 or 15 minutes. It's not like it's this big thing. All they're really sort of training you to do is fill out the ballot. But the ballots are pretty self-explanatory as well. I think that they put the training sessions in mainly to assuage the adults who are saying, oh, I don't know how to do this. Nobody's ever taught me how to do this, which is where we are in our culture today. So forgive me, I'm going to diverge a little bit and talk about where we are in our culture today. This idea that you can't because you've never been taught how, okay? That's a lie that comes directly from our bureaucratic school system or our public school bureaucracy. It is a debilitating, it's a debilitating concept that's been infused throughout our education system to everybody who went through it. And I know, because that's where I came from. I came from a self-doubter. I was a self-doubter because I was taught that I couldn't do anything that I hadn't been formally instructed in. That's what the schools teach. They can't help but. I'm not saying that it's on purpose or that it's not on purpose. All I'm saying is that's the way it is. And we need to recognize that. And so we've got parents who go, well, I've never judged speech and debate before. I've never taken class on speech and debate. How can I possibly judge? No. You're supposed to judge as an audience member. Are you telling me you've never heard a speaker? You've never heard a speech? If you've heard a speech, and even if you haven't heard a speech, all we are asking you to do is to give commentary, to give feedback. Did the speech impress you? Did it not impress you? Did it leave you cold? Did it put you to sleep? Did it inspire you? What about it inspired you? What about it bored you? What about the speech did you find humorous? What about the speaker grabbed your attention? What about the speaker annoyed you that you didn't like? That's the feedback that these young people are looking for. So it's not rocket science. Now, running a speech and debate club. Well, how can I teach speech and debate? Well, it kind of comes down to that, and maybe learning some techniques so that you can reflect those back to the speaker. But honestly, just the basics, you're an adult, you know them already. Don't fidget with your hands. Don't walk in circles while you're talking. Maybe change positions while you're talking. Maybe don't spend the entire time with your hands in your pocket. Don't use like, right? Do this, like. So there are a lot of different ways to provide feedback, and you don't have to be Tony Robbins to be able to provide kids with some feedback. They're children, okay? They're children. They shouldn't be scary to you. They should be an encouragement to you, and you should be an encouragement to them. So I had one parent who volunteered almost immediately because I found out later she really wanted her kids involved. There was something about it that she was like, yes, that's what my kids need right now. And so I want to get involved in that. And so she volunteered, and she said, I don't know what I'm doing, so please help me, but I will do the best I can. And so she sat in, and initially I didn't have a great big group, so we just did our group, and it was fine. And so she saw me put parts of a speech up on the board, go over it with the kids the next week, and basically offer critiques on the impromptu. But honestly, the impromptu is just, they just get up on their feet and sink or swim. And you just want to point out that they swam. Good for you. You swam a little ways. Good for you. You swam a little bit farther. Good for you. You swam and you swam some more. Like, that's all that is. And then as they progress, you progress as the adult in the room as well. Does that make sense? So you don't have to know all of the different things. Now, when it comes to debate, do a little bit of, do just a minor amount of research, okay? And I'm now training the adults in the room. If they stay in the room when we're covering debate, I'm training them with, and it's just logical. It's logical. So we had a debate the other day, and the rebuttal came up and said, and we can't even trust the affirmative team's sources. And the affirmative team came up for the cross. Now the cross is questions only. But he couldn't help himself because he was so excited. He said, well, first I'd like to say that, I mean, he questioned my sources, but I have the same source that he has. And the whole class was like, ooh, what just happened? And yes, I asked them right away. I said, did he win that point or lose it? And the whole class was like, oh no, he won it. The problem is, in a formal debate, he wasn't asking a question and he sounded a little bit snarky or catty, or you have to be careful when you're debating in competition. You can't overstep the line and sound snotty. He didn't really sound snotty, but he sounded a little bit like hoity-toity, like, haha, I got him. And you have to be very careful. And so we went over how to maybe avoid that scenario, because frankly, it would have been even more effective, really even more effective, if he had said, could you please cite the source that you used for your for your proofs? And he would have said healthline.com or whatever. And then you would have said, and I went through this with him, I stepped through it. I said, and then you would have said, it seems to me that you questioned my sources when you were giving your negative case. And he would have had to say, yes, I think that your sources are questionable. And then he could have asked, would you please read for the judges my source from from this line in the 1AC. Now, when you go into debate, the negative team, when they go up to cross-examine the affirmative team, they should always ask for a copy of the affirmative team's case, because that's what they're arguing against and nothing more. So they're arguing against the affirmative case, so they need a copy, and that sort of keeps them on track. So they make sure that they argue every single point the affirmative case brings up, right? So he has the affirmative case in front of him. You could say, could you please read the source that I used? And then that same child would have read healthline.com. And would you agree that we have the same source? Yes. So you would have to stipulate that you do trust my source, since it's the same source that you used. Do you see what I'm saying? So everything is in the form of a question, and now you've really nailed him, but in a way that doesn't make you look too much like a jerk. It just makes you a hero. Okay, thank you. No further questions. Done with you. And now I've just owned you. So that's the fun of debate, right? Is where you can eke out those wins. And boy, I've got some great debaters. They love to go for the win, but they do it respectfully. That's the important part, right? Because if you can't go at it respectfully, then you lose credibility. That's a really important thing to understand. So that is parental encouragement. And once the parents get involved, I think they can't help but get somewhat hooked. So I would really encourage them to get involved, even just a little bit. And then you play to their strengths. You find out what their interests are. So, some parents are like, no, I can't do debate. I just can't. And that's too bad, because I think they can. but I think they maybe have been taught that they can't or something. So I'm very busy trying to encourage my parents to embrace debate. I'll tell you, one of the greatest days of my life was the day my son won a debate with me. Fair and square, he won it. We were having an argument, but it wasn't an argument. It wasn't a heated argument. It was just a back and forth. These are my points. This is why I'm right. And those are his points. And that's why he's right. And he tore down my points very respectfully and made his points. And I was like, wow, I really don't have an argument for that. That's very good. Yay! Because I was a good parent. Because I did that. I made that he could do that with me. And it was an amazing thing because he used his brain and he used his powers of coercion and his powers of persuasion and his powers of rhetoric to, and I'll tell you, that was hard fought because I never let him win. I don't let my kids win. I mean, okay, when they're really little, maybe a little bit, but they got to work for it. He worked for it and he won. That's a good thing. It's an amazing thing. So I really encourage you, embrace debate and learn more about it and encourage your children. We want them to win, right? You want your kids to win? Then you got to engage. You got to get in the fight and work towards it. So that's all for now. Thanks so much. I'll be back. So stay tuned and please subscribe and please share. Help me grow my reach. Yeah, this is all very exciting stuff. See you on the flip side.